50 years ago, they fought over the same man. Today, they are fighting over the most expensive diamonds in the British Empire. The world thinks Camilla won it all when she was crowned queen at Westminster Abbey. She got the king, she got the throne, and she got access to the largest royal jewelry collection on earth. But behind the heavy steel doors of the royal vault, she hit a dead end. Princess Anne has built an impenetrable fortress, a private armory of the family's most sentimental, historically priceless jewels. And she has ensured that Camilla's hands will never, ever touch them. To understand this Cold War, you have to go back to 1970. Before Diana Spencer was even a thought, Princess Anne's first great love was a handsome cavalry officer named Andrew Parker Bowles. But a confident young woman named Camilla Shand swept into the picture, captured Andrew's attention, and eventually married him. Anne's pride was wounded. The royal family closed ranks. 50 years have passed. Camilla is now queen, but Princess Anne is the Iron Princess. She doesn't ask, she takes. She doesn't bow, she locks the safe. And she never forgets. Today, we expose the manifest of the diamonds Princess Anne legally ripped from the crown's grasp. This is the story of bad blood, chopped up Cartier masterpieces, and the ultimate royal revenge. Now let's open Princess Anne's vault. To understand the standoff between Anne and Camilla, you need to understand the brutal legal reality of the royal vault, a reality that the palace PR machine tries very hard to hide. When Queen Camilla attends a state banquet wearing the towering Greville honeycomb tiara or the massive Delhi Durbar, the press calls them her jewels. They are not. Camilla is essentially a highly privileged mannequin for the state. She is renting the uniform of the consort. If she dies, or if, heaven forbid, she and King Charles were to divorce, every single diamond goes straight back into the state box. She does not own them, she cannot sell them, she cannot leave them to her own children. Princess Anne plays an entirely different game. She demands deeds of ownership, the turn of a key, the click of a steel lock, a document in the name of Anne Elizabeth Alice Louise. Where Camilla borrows, Anne possesses. And her ultimate weapon against Camilla is a crown drenched in the legacy of the woman who despised the new queen the most, the aquamarine pine flower tiara. This is not a generic state diadem. It is a masterpiece of late Art Deco design, commissioned in 1938 by King George VI for the Queen Mother. It was crafted by Cartier to celebrate their 15th wedding anniversary. War was looming over Europe, and the king wanted a symbol of endurance. Cartier delivered icy emerald-cut aquamarines set amidst diamond pine cones, an ancient motif of fertility and unbreakable strength. The Queen Mother cherished it. It was the physical embodiment of her successful marriage. And the Queen Mother absolutely hated Camilla Parker Bowles. She blamed Camilla entirely for the destruction of the monarchy's reputation in the 90s. Palace insiders have long whispered that the Queen Mother wouldn't even allow Camilla's name to be spoken in her presence at Clarence House. She referred to her only as that woman. The Queen Mother knew that if she left her favorite personal jewels to the crown collection, Charles would eventually inherit them. And Charles would put them on Camilla. To the old matriarch, that was an unacceptable desecration. She preferred to give her finest diamonds away while she was still alive, rather than let the mistress of her grandson ever wear them. So she bypassed the crown completely. On Princess Anne's wedding day to Mark Phillips in 1973, the Queen Mother signed the aquamarine pine flower tiara directly over to her granddaughter. It was legally removed from the state inventory. It became Anne's personal property. And Anne did something that reportedly left the royal establishment stunned and Camilla quietly seething. She took the Cartier masterpiece and chopped it up. Finding the original towering design too cumbersome for her practical lifestyle and sleek hairstyles, Anne ordered jewelers to physically amputate the tiara. She had the massive central diamond and aquamarine pine flower element sawed right out of the platinum frame to streamline the crown. She didn't discard the center, of course. She transformed it into a magnificent standalone aquamarine brooch, which she now pins to her lapels for daytime engagements. She didn't do this just for fashion. She did it to prove dominance. You cannot take a jeweler's saw to a tiara if you are just borrowing it. Camilla cannot alter a single diamond setting on her state crowns without a committee's approval. But Anne hacked apart a museum-grade Cartier heirloom to send a brutal message. This is mine. I do what I want with it. When Camilla finally entered the royal fold in 2005, she was given a catalog of available loans from the Queen. The pine flower wasn't on it. Palace insiders whispered that Camilla, famously fond of blue stones, would have loved to add the Queen Mother's aquamarines to her rotation. She was met with a cold, hard no. By securing the tiara, Anne ensured that the sentimental heart of her grandparents' marriage was permanently walled off from the woman who broke her brother's home. Camilla can wear the heavy, generic state diamonds, but the true Windsor legacy is locked in Anne's safe. But Anne didn't just stop at sentimental pieces. She targeted the highest value colored gemstones in the world. Camilla's signature color is blue. She relies heavily on sapphires to project power. But the greatest sapphires in British possession will never sit on her neck. Next, we look at the Russian blockade and how Anne hijacked the Tsar's most famous diamonds right from under Camilla's nose. If there is one gemstone that defines the visual identity of Queen Camilla, it is the sapphire. From the moment she officially entered royal life, the palace PR machine recognized that her pale blue eyes and blonde hair made sapphires her natural, most flattering choice. She relies on them heavily to soften her image and project a regal, commanding presence. But there is a glaring problem in Camilla's jewelry box. While she has access to many beautiful bluestones, the most spectacular, historically significant sapphires in the entire United Kingdom do not belong to the Queen. They belong to Princess Anne. And Anne acquired them decades ago, executing a maneuver that effectively blocked Camilla from ever touching the crown jewel of the sapphire collection. This is the story of the Empress Maria Feodorovna sapphire choker. To understand the sheer magnitude of this jewel and why its absence from Camilla's neck is such a glaring insult, we have to look back at the glittering, doomed court of Imperial Russia. This necklace was created for Empress Maria Feodorovna, the mother of the last Tsar, Nicholas II. The Russian imperial court operated on a level of excess that made the British royals look like country squires. And this choker is a breathtaking piece of Romanov extravagance. It consists of 4 thick, luminous rows of flawless pearls, interspersed with 20 vertical diamond bars. But the true masterpiece is the clasp, a massive geometric construction of diamonds anchored by an enormous deep blue cabochon sapphire. It is a marvel of 19th century engineering, designed so perfectly that it can be separated into 2 identical bracelets. When the Russian Revolution erupted in 1917, the Empress was trapped in Crimea. When she finally managed to escape aboard a British warship, she carried only a small box of her most precious everyday jewels. This sapphire choker was one of the few treasures she managed to smuggle out of the collapsing empire. After her death in exile in 1928, her daughters were desperate for money. Enter Queen Mary of Britain. Mary, who was always ready to snap up a royal bargain from distressed relatives, purchased the choker for £6,000. It eventually passed down to Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. Now, by the standard rules of royal distribution, a piece with this kind of staggering imperial pedigree, a true Romanov survivor, should be reserved for the highest-ranking women in the family. It is exactly the kind of massive historical statement piece that Camilla wears today to solidify her status at state banquets. But Queen Elizabeth II had other plans. In the early 1970s, long before Camilla married Charles and long before Diana was in the picture, the Queen gifted the Russian sapphire choker permanently to Princess Anne. Why would the Queen give away a Romanov masterpiece to her daughter rather than keep it in the Crown collection for future queens? Because the Queen recognized early on that Anne was the anchor of the family. Anne was the hardest working, the most stoic, and the least likely to ever cause a scandal that would embarrass the monarchy. By giving Anne the Romanov sapphires, the Queen was placing one of the most historically important pieces of the collection into a safe, untouchable harbor. And Anne has worn the choker relentlessly for 50 years. She wears it as the full 4-row pearl necklace for evening galas, or she breaks it down, detaching the massive sapphire clasp to wear as a standalone brooch on her coats. Every time Anne steps out in the Empress's sapphires, it is a quiet, glittering reminder of the hierarchy of blood. When Queen Camilla hosts a Russian or Eastern European dignitary, she must do so wearing generic state diamonds. She cannot wear the piece that actually connects the British crown to the Romanovs. Anne holds that card. Anne's possession of the choker is a Russian blockade, a permanent wall keeping the most fascinating history of the royal vault firmly on the neck of the born princess, rather than the second wife. Camilla may have access to the crown's generic sapphire suites, but she will never be able to touch the stones that escaped the Bolsheviks. But Anne didn't just secure the historical pieces. She also made sure that she would never, ever have to rely on King Charles or Queen Camilla for her rank. She achieved this by doing something almost unheard of for a modern British princess. She acquired her own crown. Next, we look at the Independence Crown and how Anne built a royal armory that requires absolutely no permission from the monarch to open. There is a quiet, often humiliating reality to being a junior member of the British royal family. Whenever there is a state banquet, a diplomatic reception, or a major royal wedding, the princesses and duchesses cannot simply open their jewelry boxes and pull out a diamond diadem. They must go hat in hand to the monarch. They must formally request permission to borrow a tiara from the crown collection. Today, that means any royal woman who wants to wear diamonds must indirectly seek the approval of King Charles and, by extension, Queen Camilla. Camilla, as the highest-ranking woman in the household, now controls the flow of the vault. She and the palace courtiers decide who gets the spectacular emeralds and who gets relegated to the dusty pearls. It is the ultimate silent display of soft power. It is how a queen consort keeps the other women in check. But Princess Anne does not ask for permission, because Princess Anne doesn't need to. Anne possesses the festoon tiara. This is not a delicate starter tiara like the Cartier halo loaned to Kate Middleton, or a simple diamond bandeau. This is a massive, blinding wall of diamonds. It is constructed of brilliant rays stylized in the form of heraldic lilies. Between the large rays are smaller ones, acting as miniature symbols of royalty. The base of the tiara is shaped like a wave, with the rays fixed upon its crests and hollows. Every millimeter of the tiara is studded with diamonds of varying sizes. It is a crown for a true sovereign, projecting immense authority and weight. But here is the brilliant, unprecedented twist. It does not belong to the crown. The story of how Anne acquired it is a testament to her legendary work ethic. In 1973, Princess Anne traveled to christen a ship for a worldwide shipping group based in Hong Kong. As a gesture of thanks for her time, her patronage, and her sheer star power, the corporation didn't just give her a bouquet of flowers or a commemorative plaque, they gave her a full diamond tiara. Let that sink in. It wasn't a wedding gift from her parents, it wasn't an ancient Windsor heirloom passed down through generations. It was given to her as a professional thank you for doing her job. From the moment the velvet box was handed to her in 1973, the festoon tiara became Anne's private, personal property. Think about what this means for the power dynamic within Buckingham Palace today. When a state banquet is announced, the Duchess of Edinburgh or the Princesses of York must wait to see what the palace will allocate to them. But Anne simply walks to her own private safe, takes out her massive diamond crown, and puts it on her head. She answers to no one. This tiara is the ultimate symbol of Anne's fierce independence. She is the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II. She routinely carries out more royal engagements per year than King Charles, Queen Camilla, and Prince William combined. And she attends these events wearing a crown that she literally earned herself. By securing the festoon tiara, Anne ensured that she would never be subjected to the humiliating politics of the jewelry vault. If Camilla ever decided to play games with the royal loans, restricting access to assert her dominance, Anne would be entirely unaffected. She built her own armory, and she extended that fierce protection to her own children. When Anne's son, Peter Phillips, married Autumn Kelly in 2008, Autumn didn't have to borrow a tiara from the Queen. Anne simply opened her own safe and loaned her new daughter-in-law the festoon tiara. Anne operates a completely separate, untouchable royal court within the family. She has proven that while titles are given, true power is owned. But while the festoon tiara represents Anne's financial and royal independence, the next piece in her collection represents her ultimate loyalty. It is a piece that connects her directly to her father, Prince Philip. And by claiming it, Anne ensured that his legacy remains fiercely protected from outsiders, especially from the new Queen Consort. If you look closely at Queen Camilla's public image since she married Charles, you will notice a very specific, highly calculated PR strategy. To survive the ghost of Diana, Camilla was advised to style herself after the most formidable queen consort in British history, Queen Mary. The strategy was simple: wear massive, heavy Edwardian diamonds, look like an immovable institution, look like a matriarch. But there is a fatal flaw in Camilla's strategy. To truly look like Queen Mary, you need Queen Mary's personal jewelry, and Princess Anne had already raided that specific section of the vault. Anne deliberately secured the one piece of jewelry that Queen Mary used as her literal armor, the City of London pearl and diamond choker. This is an absolute masterpiece of late 19th century craftsmanship, presented to Queen Mary as a wedding gift in 1893 by the Lord Mayor of London. It is a wide, rigid collar made of an intricate diamond lattice, densely packed with large pearls. In her iconic portraits, Queen Mary wore this choker clamped high around her throat. It wasn't just a necklace, it was a shield. It forced her to keep her chin impossibly high, projecting an aura of terrifying, absolute authority. It was the ultimate uniform of the Queen Consort. When Queen Mary died in 1953, the choker passed to Queen Elizabeth II. But Elizabeth hated tight necklaces. For nearly 50 years, Queen Mary's armor sat in the dark. By all rights, this historic choker should have been handed to Camilla when she joined the family. It perfectly matches the heavy, institutional Queen Mary aesthetic her PR team was desperately trying to build. It would have legitimized her. But Camilla never got the chance. In the early 2000s, Princess Anne quietly claimed the choker for herself. She didn't wait for Charles to become king. She didn't wait for Camilla to ask for it. Anne simply took possession of it, and she began wearing it with devastating casualness. While Camilla is forced to borrow generic state diamonds to look authoritative, Anne wears Queen Mary's most iconic personal armor to standard charity galas. She wore it to the Festival of Trees Gala at the Natural History Museum. This is a profound psychological victory. By wearing the City of London choker, Anne is visually telling the world, "You might sit on the throne, but I am the one who holds the power of the ancestors." Anne robbed Camilla of the very historical pieces she needed to legitimize her reign. She took the armor of the greatest queen consort, ensuring that Camilla would always look like an imitation, while Anne looks like the authentic, undeniable heir to the Windsor matriarchs. But Anne's strategy wasn't just about blocking Camilla from the British queens. It was also about protecting the bloodline of the men in her family. Next, we look at the Greek Guardian. If the Queen Mother was the soul of the Windsor dynasty, Prince Philip was its spine. Philip was a prince of Greece and Denmark. He brought a sharp, no-nonsense European royal heritage into the somewhat stuffy British court. And of his 4 children, only one truly inherited his razor-sharp wit and absolute intolerance for fools, Princess Anne. She was the Iron Princess, undeniably her father's favorite. So, when it came time to distribute the jewels representing Prince Philip's Greek bloodline, Queen Elizabeth made a highly symbolic choice. She bypassed the wives of her sons. She bypassed the crown collection. She gave the ultimate Greek treasure directly to Anne. This is the Meander tiara. Its design is an anomaly in the royal vault. Unlike the floral, fussy Victorian tiaras of the British collection, the Meander tiara is stark and geometric. It features the classic Greek key motif, the meander, interspersed with a central laurel wreath and 2 honeysuckle elements, all rendered in blinding diamonds. It originally belonged to Prince Philip's mother, the eccentric and tragic Princess Alice of Battenberg. Alice gave it to Queen Elizabeth in 1947 as a wedding gift. But Elizabeth, with her softer, traditional English style, found the harsh lines of the Greek tiara too severe. She never wore it in public. Instead, in 1972, the Queen permanently gifted it to Princess Anne. On Anne, the Meander tiara finally made sense. Its sharp, uncompromising lines perfectly matched her personality. It was the crown of a warrior princess. But the significance of this gift goes far beyond aesthetics. It was about quarantine. By giving the Meander tiara to Anne, the Queen ensured that Prince Philip's deeply personal family history was locked securely within the bloodline. Think about the alternative. If the tiara had remained in the crown collection, it would eventually have passed to the next queen consort. It would have passed to Camilla. Can you imagine the uproar? Camilla, a woman with no connection to the Greek or Danish royal houses, wearing the deeply personal, tragic legacy of Prince Philip's mother? To the public and to the family, it would have felt like a usurpation. The Queen knew that passing this tiara to a second wife would erase its historical meaning. By giving the tiara to Anne, it was placed in a vault that Camilla can never touch. Anne wears it with pride, a glittering shield of her father's legacy. And just like she did with her festoon tiara, Anne used her absolute ownership of the Meander tiara to bypass the monarch entirely. When Anne's daughter, Zara Phillips, married Mike Tyndall in 2011, Zara didn't wear a loan from the Queen. Anne placed the Meander tiara on her daughter's head. She ensured that the blood of Prince Philip was honored by his direct descendant, keeping the Greek diamonds strictly within the family. Anne is not just a princess, she is a fortress. She has hoarded the Romanov sapphires, the Greek diamonds, and the Queen Mother's aquamarines, building an impenetrable wall of history around herself. But the final, most defiant piece in Anne's collection isn't a crown. It is a necklace that tells a story of survival, of loyalty, and of a queen who knew exactly who to trust when the chips were down. Next, we look at the final showdown, the ultimate defiance. We have seen how Princess Anne weaponized her jewelry box. She used diamonds to protect the Queen Mother's memory, to secure Prince Philip's legacy, and to guarantee her own absolute independence from the new regime. But the final piece of this puzzle is a jewel that proves Anne's ultimate triumph over the changing tides of the monarchy. This is Queen Alexandra's Edwardian choker. It is an incredibly magnificent piece featuring delicate diamond garlands and circles set on a velvet band with a single trembling diamond suspended from the center. It belonged to Queen Alexandra, the wife of King Edward VII. She wore it famously on the Russian imperial yacht in 1909. It is a piece of absolute, pure royal pedigree. After Queen Alexandra died in 1925, the choker vanished into the vault. It lay in the dark for nearly 50 years. Who brought it back into the light? Not the Queen, not the Queen Mother. It was Princess Anne. In 1971, a 21-year-old Princess Anne reached into the deepest, most forgotten corners of the royal vault and pulled out Queen Alexandra's choker. She wore it to the Royal Albert Hall. She wore it on her honeymoon. Why does this matter? Because it proves that for 50 years, Princess Anne has had unparalleled, unrestricted access to the greatest treasures of the British crown. Long before Diana arrived, long before Catherine was born, and decades before Camilla was ever allowed near a royal safe, Anne was curating her own magnificent collection. She was taking the best pieces and putting them in a vault with her name on the door. Today, Queen Camilla stands at the center of the Buckingham Palace balcony. She wears the towering state tiaras. She wears the heavy, institutional diamonds assigned to her office. But when she looks across that balcony at Princess Anne, she must realize a harsh, humiliating truth. Camilla is wearing rented armor. She may hold the title of Queen Consort. She may wear the imperial state crown. But she will never have the aquamarine pine flower. She will never have the meander tiara. She will never have the Romanov sapphires. Those pieces, the true heart, the true soul, and the true bloodline of the Windsor family, belong to the Princess Royal. Princess Anne didn't need to fight Camilla in the press. She didn't need to leak stories to the tabloids or wage a public relations war. She fought her war in the shadows, quietly and methodically claiming absolute ownership of the family's most sentimental treasures before Camilla even had a chance to ask for them. In the silent, sparkling war of the royal vaults, Camilla might have won the throne, but Princess Anne kept the diamonds. A huge thank you to my very first sponsor, at Nansmith964. I truly appreciate your support. Also, a reminder that we have an exclusive private Telegram channel available to Level 3 sponsors, where I share all kinds of stories and extra content.